Welcome, everybody. This is the KubeVirt community meeting, September 23rd, 2020. First topic is from Edward Haas, talking about libvirt privileges.
Yeah, hello. So I was working on an issue with SROV where we pass in the virtual function into the VM, and while investigating it with the libvirt developer, we realized that I realized, so it's more like a question, that libvirt is running inside the virt launcher as privileged, but the container itself is restricted. It has not only some of the things are not visible inside the container, and some of the things are not even accessible. So my question is, is there a thinking about moving libvirt to be run not as privileged? Because it seems that libvirt assumes some things when it runs like that. And
I assume you mean that it's running as the SE Linux process SPCT?
I think that I'm not in the specific details, but for example, when it binds as to QEMU system, from their point of view, it's privileged.
So, yeah, we're planning to switch it to user mode.
Okay.
Just there are lots of things that are involved in this. But yeah, there's a ticket about this, and there's a plan.
Okay, great. Because, for example, in the thing that I worked on, they assume some things. For example, they are checking if it's using if libvirt runs as privileged from their point of view. They try to check the PCI type, if it's PCIe or not, and based on that they take a decision. So that hurts the current detection. So this is why it was raised. But if there is a ticket, then great. Is that can anyone paste it here? Like if there is such a
it's a Jira issue, so I don't think the link is relevant.
Okay.
But we can get it to you.
Okay, thanks. And the second one was related to the same work that I did. It seems like we had the same. I mean, we have the same problem with the SRV, but in a different in a different angle. The angle is that when there is no way to know what will be the order or the interfaces when you when there is more than one, but the images that come from for the VMs from the cloud, the default ones at least, they are coming with a grub in the kernel command line. There is a command that says that it should not use this persistent interface name. It's not persistent. It's actually consistent names, which are based on the PCI mapping.
Sorry, I thought it was called persistent interface names. I'd have to Google that. But yeah, the trouble here is that there's nothing that KubeVirt can or should be doing about this. It's by nature, the interface names are not in a order, and it has nothing to do with the container engine, really. So the only, like, each OS is now dealing with this independently going forward. The old ETH0, ETH1, ETH2 that we're familiar with and know and love is going away in pretty much every distro. So it's not clear to me what we should be doing or what the concern is here.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think it's kind of the contract between how you package your image and the distro, and how actually libvirt and QEMU bring up the VM. It has nothing to do with the KubeVirt in the middle.
So yeah, so yes, I mean, I'm telling this from how can I say it? The existing distro is that I think I saw Fedora 31. I think, I'm not sure. When you run it, if you check the grub command line Linux that it came up with, it has a net iFace names equals 0. I can paste it here on the document, which says that the consistent naming is not used. It's disabled. I'm guessing it was done because I'm pasting it here. Sorry. So I'm just guessing that this was done because usually a cloud VM will come up with only one NIC, and that's it. But I'm saying when it comes with when we set it with 2, then we have a problem. So, for example, the problem in KubeVirt specifically is that if we add SRIV, for example, the SRIV can become the first interface, and that's not something expected. But it's not about the first. The naming there is unexpected.
However, so
yeah.
let me think, like on a bare metal system, the net IF names equals 0 is going to come from grub. But in QEMU, is that controlled by KubeVirt or is that controlled by the installed image? I still think it's the installed image.
Yes, it's the installed image, but this is the problem. I think.
Right. So I think the question is, if you put aside KubeVirt, take that image and try to bring it on a regular QEMU, you will face the same issue.
Yes.
So,
yes, exactly.
Right. So it's not a KubeVirt issue, right? It's kind of
it is a you know when the base is not good, we are not good. So in
No.
this
What
case,
we're saying is we have no control over this. This is up to the guest image to fix, period.
right. And you cannot overcome it because it's by nature, it's not ordered. Maybe the solution here is some better documentation to say that, look, you indicate that this is an issue, and I don't see how you can overcome it.
So I want the question. I'm guessing the answer is no. But is there a way for us to? Is there a way for KubeVirt or QEMU to pass in the kernel commands somehow, or override them, or add them, or something? Is there such an option for the future? I'm asking. Can you control it?
No.
Okay.
We can pass a different kernel. There is a PR about this with different kernel arguments.
Yeah. Okay. But we cannot just maybe do some trick to just replace the existing command line or just concatenate over them.
Okay, but so break. Here's the thing:
Yes,
if in the application that you're dealing with, this is a concern, change the IF names equals 0 to IF names equal 1, and that will fix the problem.
Yes, I'm not worrying about that we need to tell. We can tell the customer, obviously, or someone that uses this, the user that uses KubeVirt and wants to use secondary interfaces. We can tell them through documentation. That's fine. That's actually good. But the problem is, I'm not sure how we can. I mean, it feels that we don't have control over this. It's. I don't know how to explain it. I think that we have a problem with the users that will use it. It's not something that they will expect. And the main problem that I have now is that in some rare cases, when you reboot the VM, when this default is there, like when the ETH1, 0, this one are there, it may swap the order. And that's the killer part.
But maybe I'm missing something. Even if someone can come up with some injection mechanism and so on, the distro can choose whatever names, right? So how can you predict, it's a pure contract between,
No, it's yes, I understand what you mean, but this is not a problem. I think maybe I missed the actual problem. The problem is that if we use the ETHN pattern, if the order at the boot changes and it changes, so we have an example that is recreated now, it always it swaps the order. So when it comes back, everything is messed up. So the interfaces are totally messed up because the order changed. So ETH1 becomes ETH0 and the opposite, and then it's a mess. So I'm trying to see if we can avoid this somehow. That's it.
So the way to deal with this was usually with device role tagging. What we did is that we before the VM starts, we started paused. We look at the PCI addresses that of a device that we want to find that's correlate to the API object. And what we did is that in the get, we tagged it with a specific tag, and then we provided this some kind of a map between the PCI address and the tag to the guest through a config driver or whatever. And then the guest could read it, find the PCI address, and know how to configure this device. This is working perfectly, well, not perfectly, but this is working in OpenStack, and we introduced the same thing in KubeVirt as well. The problem starts with the Q35 and the complications of Q35 chipset. And in some cases, well, in some complex cases, when you have a complex PCI topology, you cannot correlate properly the PCI address because the bus number changes. And in simple cases, it works. In normal cases, it also works, but in some more complex cases, it doesn't. SRV is one of them. And what happens is that actually the bug that you've opened, they already commented there, and Daniel Belanger also commented on the back. And maybe one way to deal with this is to be able to expose a bus number in LibVirt. And then according to this, we could calculate what will be the bus number in the guest.
Okay, we can talk about it in details later. So I just wanted to see if there is anything that. So I just wanted this feedback, basically. Thanks.
Awesome. Glad to help. All right. So if there's no more thoughts on that subject, moving on to Lubo, you raised an issue with GoSec.
Yeah, just a quick note. Hi all. We're going to introduce the GoSec to the KubeVirt, and we're introducing a new line for this. So if you see some failing new job, don't be afraid. I think there should be a JUnit and also a git diff of new issues which were introduced, and just fix it and it should work.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, Pep, you wanted to mention something about online events?
Yes, that's an idea. Just want to gather your thoughts about it. It's a possibility of organizing an online event for KubeVirt. The background on this is in the past, we used to take the opportunity of major events like KubeCon to organize a face-to-face meetup. Attendees to the conference who would be interested in KubeVirt, either users or developers, could get together, etc. Well, now those major conferences are turning all virtual. So, well, we don't have an equivalent version online yet. So the question here, or the proposal would be, should we organize one anyway? So we have this opportunity to use, to have our very own online event, fully KubeVirt focused. This has pros and cons. It opens a whole set of new opportunities because it's not restricted to only people attending another major event. So potentially we could reach out to many more attendees. But it's, on the other hand, it's not a trivial amount of work. So it does involve some time investment, and the question, let's say, is is this something we want to pursue, or I just wanted to throw the idea here and get people's thoughts on it, and basically that's what I wanted to mention. What would you guys think? Does a KubeVirt, let's say a KubeVirt event, online event, would you guys join it? Let's say, would you interested? The former, by the way, we are thinking about just a small event, like something like half day, or something like that.
I think it could be useful. When I've been at conferences, there's always positive feedback and curiosity towards KubeVirt. So maybe having a dedicated event is a great way to, to address that here in the middle of the pandemic. But you asked a two-part question. The second part is, yes, I'd join.
Okay, would you, well, thanks for joining, but would you also maybe potentially present or contribute content to it? That's another phase, but.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what we would want to do is, if we're going to seriously organize something, then we would do maybe a call for proposals, like a standard window, or are we getting that formal?
Yeah, that's one of the things. So organizing a formal call for proposals would imply, yes, it's an option, but it is even more work, so to speak. Then you have to evaluate those proposals formally and have a set of guidelines, committee, etc. if you want, depending on how formal you want to get. But yeah, that's one of the challenges. Let's say what type of content, which actually it's a question that comes after solving the question of the expected audience or the target audience. Should we focus this more to end users or contributors or both? Lots of questions I have too.
I'm sure there's some interest in the room. People are just shy. All right. Well, if there, go on.
Okay, just to kind of chime in here. Like, do we have such an event in the past, like in the face-to-face meeting, right? How it looks like?
Yes, we had. Yeah, as mentioned, we used to have face-to-face meetings during taking the opportunity of that people attending KubeCon. Basically, every KubeCon for the past, I don't know how many editions, we had a parallel, just face-to-face meetup. How would they look like? Well, we would just reserve a space close to the as close as possible and to the conference venue, and also try to provide, try to avoid conflicts, which is hard during such a major conference, but try to accommodate, a time slot that could let people join, and then, people would sign up. We just had a small check-in logistics type of thing, and we would get together and discuss whatever topics. There were a few topics proposed, but it was mostly open to the interest of the attendees. We had between, let's say, depends. I attended two, and one we were like around 10 people, I think, and the other one we were like 30 people or so, more or less. So it depends on. But here we could potentially, address many more people because you don't have to be physically there. So
we already have 17 people in this call, right? I just looked at the
yeah.
And also looks like in the past, seems like the event was more or less a free form, right? Ad hoc, topic-wise. So if we just put a little bit of order, right, in terms of the solicit some of the speakers just by invitation, put some kind of programs, including a little bit of combination of education, right, and development, give the status update to the community. So I would consider this will be both attracting some new developers coming to contribute, and also maybe attracting some people to try it out. So should be lightweight, even among ourselves, it could be very educational. By the way, for myself, okay, I'm new, so I think that will be very useful for me as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for the comments and ideas.
Sure.
Anyone else?
And so that's a very good point. Where are my manners? Welcome to the new attendees. We have a few new faces in the room this week. All right. If there's any other thoughts on helping organize a KubeVirt event, let us know. Are there any other topics to raise today? All right. Well, thank you all, and see you next week.